Assalamu alaikum.
I want to share my screen. Uh, can we do that? Desktop. Open. Something is interesting. Okay. Open system preferences. Okay. While I'm trying to figure this out, you want to hang with me for a second. So I assume you're all student ages. Okay, Ahmed, I'm not going to be able to share my screen from this computer. I need a minute to get to my laptop. Is that okay?
Yeah, that's perfectly fine, inshallah ta'ala.
Give me a second, inshallah.
Yeah, while we're waiting, I'll open the floor. If you could share one thing that you learned from the previous session with Sister Razia Hamdi. Could be anything that you took from that session. It was very, very insightful. Sister Renee, I don't know if you're trying to unmute your mic. Anyone, you're welcome, inshallah ta'ala. We got a guest. Assalamu alaikum. Floor is yours. Talib Hakim or Brother Tariq Ahmed. What was one thing that you guys learned?
I think one important thing that I learned from that breakout room was that in order to always have a positive mindset within, let me say, within any organizations, that you always need to have tawakkul of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. You always have to have an Islamic mindset. Think about the Sunnah of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam in order to be a leader, because the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam is all of our leaders, is all of our role models. So in order to give back to the community, you always have to have tawakkul and be aware of, the traits and the characteristics of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam.
Beautiful, beautiful. And we'll do one more reflection, inshallah ta'ala. Floor is open to anyone else, but thank you so much for sharing. And a couple more cameras coming on. Nice. I love it.
Yeah.
Muhammad.
I'll share my my experience.
Yes.
Hopefully you can hear me.
Yeah.
My audio.
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, in our breakout session, we can discuss about many other random or individual topics. I'll talk about Muslim identity as a unity in our community. We discussed that. I shared my input about how important it is for us to be united as Muslims. That every Muslim brother and sister is an ally. This is coming from our Quran, where Allah is reminding us to kind of hold our ropes tight, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So yeah, these were the things, again, of course, based on Islamic principle, how a leader should be implementing these Islamic moral values and helping each other in our community to expand, and at the same time, in the long run, be united. So those were the things that kind of discussed a little bit. Yeah.
Beautiful, beautiful. Thank you so much, Tariq. Anyone else would like to share anything before we transition? Okay. Without any further ado, I give it back to Dr. Mamoun. Assalamu alaikum, Dr. Mamoun.
Can you guys hear me well, inshallah ta'ala? And see my screen?
Okay.
Yes, awesome. So I was asked by Ahmed to speak to you guys and different MSA members and sharers, etc., about championing leadership, and we had some talking points that we've been through. This presentation comes from little kind of like roots in the P100, and it's based on a book project of kind of some years of experience in this field. So without further ado, like as you're aware, anything you see in life has its roots. It comes from some hopefully deep philosophy. So you want to pay a lot of attention to that. And I like this representing slide where, like, what on earth I'm here for, and this has its roots. Where you come from, the deep philosophy will show its own products. So what you feel in yourselves in terms of thoughts and concepts and life experiences, you're at a life stage where it's going to shape the rest of your life. And it's important that you have good core, good basics good infrastructure. And once, as you develop this core and infrastructure, this purpose, you want to also develop your concepts and skills. And interestingly, within your fields of education, you want to intertwine them with your activism and family and the rest of your life. Okay, and we'll allude more into that. Because you're in the big bang moment at these ages in the universities and colleges. And what you do today matters a lot for your trajectory down the line and the worth of your presence altogether. Now, if you have any question at any time, this is a broad discussion. I'll try to entertain you and add value, inshallah ta'ala. But if at any time you have any questions or comments or anything sounds like not clear to you, please just jump in and make your comment and take it from there. So this is the outline. This presentation is based on another presentation that was kind of like reformatted to fit your screen for today. But we'll go through some discussions, slides, etc., with some focus on the core, a lot of focus on the core, and with some allusion to skills and things that you build in the infrastructure. All right, this is a nice painting infographic, if you will, of a concept called Ikigai. I'm not seeing everyone. Let me see if I open all the cameras. It's giving me a hard time. Let me see if I expand it. But anyone heard of Ikigai before? Please just, you may voice yourself, just unmute your computer and speak.
Yeah, I have.
Can you tell me a little bit about it?
It's the intersection between something that you're passionate about, something that benefits the world, and then something that also, most importantly, sometimes makes you money. So you can live off, so you can keep doing it and, you know, keep benefiting the world.
True. Kindly, where did you learn about this idea, this concept, this discipline, if you mind sharing?
I initially saw it on social media. So the idea
Awesome.
I saw,
Awesome.
yeah, I was scrolling through and it came up on my feed, and then I've also seen some YouTube videos around the idea.
Cool.
But I never really knew how to connect it back to Islam. So,
all right, I'm heading there. So if I may add to your nice points that you raised up, Ikigai is a Japanese discipline. And it says here just literally the meaning of your being, the concept of why we're here in some sense. And it's well polished. They have this nice infographic out there about like how to get to this your ultimate purpose of presence, and it has vocation involved, your mission, your passion, what you're good at, your like profession, what the world needs, all together gets together and develop like your best value out there. The idea behind it is that it's, as you can see, it's interesting, I'll sidetrack here, but other nations care for how they teach this at schools and they practice it, etc. But the other nations care for how their kids make the best of their value of their presence on this earth as guests on this earth. Right? They teach them how to make the best out of it, and how to be the best out there, and how to find a meaning of your presence. While we're fighting in our schools and like shoving things down the throats of our kids here and curriculum and things concepts that are counterproductive and just means of kind of like taming the population towards certain concepts in this life and more control of whatever you forces of not so good forces of evil, if you will, simplification. So anyway, Ikigai is a Japanese discipline. Now, you mentioned something nice. How does this link to us? Why am I discussing this today to the MSA students? So does this have some roots in Islam or something like it? Yes. In Islam, there is a lot. The Quran has a unique method of shaping why we're here and what to do with it. The interesting thing, I have never seen it in an infographic. I've never seen written directly about it. I've never seen it being taught well-rounded discipline in schools. We get it. We sort of like get it the hard way, if you will. All right. But this is my attempt on how Islam shapes our purpose. How it structures our purpose. So let's go through it. It's colorful, not as well put together, but it's an attempt. Islam and Quran quite often tells the story of what is everything around you. and the origins of all the elements. It talks about the creation, the universe, how the stardust, if you will, the stars and the mountains and the oceans all together. And also, quite often, in a few lines, it mentions all of that. For example, in Surah Al-Shams, in just a few lines, it goes through this journey. It talks about anthropology, the history of man, history, philosophy, psychology, how do we think, how do we come up, how our internal kind of like works, if you will. And it calls us quite often to figure out all these elements, put it together. It wants us to think about it. يتذكرون. Just wants you to process, get this all together, try to grab a model and put it together. And then it asks you and tells you, how do you fit in the picture? And asks you to look at the patterns and the potential outcomes of all. When it talks about how the stars eventually die and the mountains get demolished and all the creation is heading in some direction, everything is heading in some direction, and it comes to an end, and then it starts again. So the potential outcomes of all. And based on all of the above, it asks you to behave in a certain way. It asks you to do things. All right. So if you look at many chapter structure, it goes like that, right? And this pattern here. The basics, and then where you fit, and then what you have to do about it. And while it's doing that, it's going to ask you to commit all your resources, your life path, your youth, your wealth, your health, and performance, and eventually death to this great cause. Ask for a commitment. And at the same time, it asks for a careful examination of what that purpose is, and a warning that a life can be spent in vain. So you can spend 7 decades or 8 or more or less in a worthless way. So it asks for really a careful examination. Now, this is important for you at these ages, college age, because that's your big bang moment, if you will. That's when your stars and cosmos gets shaped, and it's better be shaped, inshallah ta'ala, on good infrastructure so you produce great products in your life paths. Intentions are important, they're basic, they're essential. And here's like some anatomy of how intentions work. So inshallah ta'ala, while you're in your MSAs, in your leadership positions, right, you have this for great intention, no show off, no secondary gains, no kind of associating any unworthy goal in what you do, because I mean, you have ikhlas, meaning pure intentions, things lead to the green way, and otherwise it's a failure. This is ikhlas and not ikhlas. Moreover, intentions leads to how things work. All right. Not only intentions in minute actions and daily matters, your life path intention, when you commit it, at some point of time, you have to have a life mission. It has to be well detailed. It has to be long lasting, inshallah, producing good, long lasting, propagating good. Now, why does that matter? Here's the example of how Theodore Parker, the guy who was quoted by Abraham Lincoln and Martin Luther King Jr. about how the universe bends toward justice, all right? And it does. But moreover, the Prophet ﷺ in Islam teaches us that the arc of the universe bends towards intentions derived from purpose and moral clarity. So when you want something and you want it badly and it's well intended, wallahi, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will change things your way. And there's so many examples out there, we'll mention some of them. Al-Khandaq, where the Prophet alayhi salatu wasalam, when he's surrounded in Medina, in the trench, he's digging and fortifying, and then he finds that he makes his claim, like when he hits the rocks and make the spark, and he says, Subhanallah, or Allahu Akbar futihat Kisra, Allahu Akbar futihat Qaisar. We will conquer this and we will conquer that. One of their weakest points is foreseeing and intending big things and looking for a far vision, and things happen that way. And hence, great intentions at your tender age, where this is again your big bang moment, where everything is falling together for you, and that's when you start like your life paths, etc. This is a critical moment where where if you kind of have your intentions on the small things and the big things in the right way, it will mean a lot for everything around you. Can someone give me an example, like how does this, our discussion so far between our purpose and how Islam shapes it and the intentions and why it's important, how does that relate to what you guys do today in the MSAs? What do you make out of it so far, if you would like? Give me examples if you wish. Help me out, Brother Ahmed Sakhr.
Can you repeat the question for them, inshallah ta'ala, in case
I guess the question is, you're involved in the MSAs or trying to be involved, you're planning, you're going back and forth. How does this matter for you, this discussion so far? The good intentions or impure intentions, long-term intentions, and the reason of your existence. How does that kind of relate to what you guys do today?
Renee, what do you think? Sister Hannah, Brother Muhammad, what are you guys' thoughts? Go ahead, Tara.
It's a conversation. There's no, please, Tara, please.
Yes, sir. Bismillah. This Ikigai concept, it has fascinated me as well, based on this first time hearing, by the way. So I think this is very exciting, at least from this for me, at least, because these concepts, for example, the four Ikigai concept you showed here, passion, profession, mission, and vocation. At least I'm trying to summarize them. These concepts, I believe, in my humble opinion, kind of align with what we have in our Islamic perspective. For example, we have one passion. Well, what is your ibadah? You know, for Allah Subhanahu wa Taala, and you're utilizing a talent, a skill. I believe that could be related to your profession. That could be your ihsan. You know, how that could be aligned to that. In my humble opinion, I think that would be kind of close related. And you have benefiting others. I believe from Islamic perspective, your khidmah. You know, how are you, you're using your profession, your skill set to benefit the others. You have khidmah. And then of course your vocation, earning the income, earning from that the passion that you have, you're contributing. Of course, at the end of the day, you also want to be benefited. It'd be helpful to benefit monetary gains. Why not? Of course, you get the hasanat and whatnot as well. So that would be fallen from Islamic perspective, the halal risk, I believe. So that could be in that perspective. Yeah. So those were my opinions, sir.
Sure. Can you, Tariq, or anyone else, remember a verse that summarized what you just said? Just one ayah. I'll give you a hint. It was said by I believe it was said by Ibrahim alayhi salatu wassalam. It was told to Muhammad to say it, but I believe it's also an Ibrahim statement down those lines about channeling your resources and everything. And it's not a quiz. There's no wrong answers. It's just a conversation, guys. So anyone remembers this verse? I'll say it. قوله سبحانه وتعالى قل إن صلاتي ونسكي ومحياي ومماتي لله رب العالمين لا شريك له وبذلك أمرت وأنا أول المسلمين. What he's saying, I'll try to paraphrase or transliterate. He's saying my life and all of its resources, eventually my death, in the middle, my worship, everything I am is for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. There's no partners for him. He's only one. And that's what I'm ordered to do. That's and I'm the first Muslim. So it summarizes what Tariq said and what this kind of like Ikigai is and what Islam purpose structuring is that you have to channel all your resources to line up with this universe that's worshiping to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And the MSA, this relates to you because, again, you're at an age where you're learning, watching, sponging up, and at the same time, you have to start experimenting different modeling, different leadership ways of doing things, different productivity, because we live in a world where everybody is jumping to shape your mind. I mean, why would Elon Musk care to own, for example, Twitter, or Jeff Bezos to own the Washington Post? and why is Mark Zuckerberg have all those algorithms to try to shape your mind? Because that's what's going to change history. All right. You have to have your say in it. You're at an age where you have to jump in, learn the skills, build the core, and it's better be well-purposed, well-intended for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And while you're doing this and you're doing your education and evolving in life, and inshallah heading for a great career, you want to mix it all together. I mean, all right, that kind of like this transdisciplinary learning, where what you get from college and these life disciplines and or system engineering if you're an engineer, or your biology or physiology and neuroanatomy if you're a physician, etc., or in health sciences, you take that to your activism. All right. For example, in biomimicry, there's so much to learn in leadership. And you take from both your life discipline, education, career, you take from that and from your leadership, teaching and learning, and your influence that you're doing through college age, you take it to your own personal life. You develop a great family, you develop a great career, great income, and you take that back to both. You take it back to your purpose and your life mission and why you're here. And you feed it to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's purpose on earth. So you're at this age of this so-called kind of transdisciplinary learning. You want to commit to that. Let me start the slideshow again. You want to commit to that because, how do I bring it back in the camera? You want to commit to that because if you do it lifelong, all through, it will take you places, inshallah, in your careers, in your personal life, and in your purpose, why you are here on earth. It's going to make a huge difference for you. And you're at this critical moment, we're committing to this, will be awesome, inshallah ta'ala. So there's that, and I carry through. Any questions or comments so far? Awesome. So transdisciplinary learning. Anyone can explain it to me one more time? What do we mean by transdisciplinary learning and how it relates to your presence now as an MSA and college students and your futures and careers and families? Any volunteers? Can I pick on someone? Brother Ahmed, tell me what it means, Brother Ahmed Saqr. What did you get out of it? Sorry.
Can I request the help of someone else so that way we can include?
Absolutely. Go ahead. Go ahead.
So see who hasn't spoken yet. Oh, Tariq again. Okay, Tariq, and then I'm seeing Tasneem, CM. If either you can give us some reflections, inshallah.
Yeah, I mean, if you want me to go, I mean, after somebody else, I mean, I could wait if you like. Yeah, if you want to.
No, go ahead.
You started. Go for it. Go for it.
All right. Jazakallah. Bismillah. I mean, I'm just gonna take a shot at this. Transdisciplinary learning. I believe the word, based on the word itself, I think this will be some sort of a educational approach where exploring multiple topics. I think you mentioned the word, implementing, utilizing different types of skill sets that you have for, to solving a problem potentially and building some kind of framework in that process. So that way all your skill set are your wide variety of skill set are utilized to solve that problem. Hope that's what I'm getting at.
Correct. Any other volunteers?
I had to go use the bathroom after the concept of ikigai, so I can't really I guess build upon it. But if you want me to talk about like the ikigai concept that you discussed, I could.
Go ahead. I want to hear more, please.
So
we'll come back to this more.
Yeah, so ikigai, I believe you said it was like a Japanese version of like how people try to find purpose and how people try to give reason to their life. And I guess like it kind of relates to the Muslim concept because as Muslims we try to live our life with excellence, with the ihsan, right? We try to live our life with the sole intention of pleasing Allah and to worship. And through that we approach everything in a way which we are conscious of Allah and we try to, and that way that like tries to push us to perform in excellence in just like the Japanese concept of like ikigai, of like being like excellent in whatever you choose to do, whatever you think is whatever you try to find is like good for you and something like that. Yeah, and that's what I got out of it.
Correct. Now there is how do I stop that? Escape is not true. So now let me go back to there's now the ikigai is a Japanese discipline of purpose structuring, and Islam has that too. Okay, this is my attempt. Here's the basics of it in my understanding of how Islam structures purpose, and this is my sort of the infographic way of trying to make something out of it. Now I have a homework for you. You do it in your own leisure. From your understanding Islam and reading Quran and those verses, that was my understanding of how Islam structures purpose of our presence, why we're here. I want you to do your own infographics too. And maybe at a later time, email it to myself or Ahmed Safar. Because it's deep in Islam, why we're here and what we're meant for and how do we make the best out of it. There's so much out there in the Quran up down those lines. But I want you to kind of like make your own infographics of your understanding and share it with us, all right? The Ikigai was just as an example of other cultures' discipline of learning it. And we have to pay so much attention as Muslims down those lines. They teach these things in schools out there while we're corrupting the minds of our kids with silly things and kind of like, you know, the nonsense discussions, the LGBTQ and all that stuff that nowadays is just other nations are paying attention to productivity and moving on. And as a community, as a society, we should do the same. And again, at your age in colleges, now, why all this purposes discussion? Why the intentions discussions? Because the core, your roots, the foundation, your deep philosophy will give products and foods. And you have to give a lot of attention to that. At the same time, while you're doing things and experimenting, you do not wait to produce, all right? And again, that's what I meant, and we'll talk more about it. Now, coming back to this transdisciplinary learning, while you're learning your life discipline, you're becoming a system engineer, or you're becoming a physician, or you're becoming a nurse, or a biologist, or a data analyst. While you're doing that, you want to take from your life disciplines and put it in your leadership experiments and experiences in your MSAs and community and society. And you want to take from both, from leadership and put it back into your career. And you want to take from both, from your career and learning and from your leadership at non-for-profit. You want to take from both and put it into family and vice versa. All right. But let's give a quick examples. For example, I don't know who's here in mechanical engineer, but do aeronautic engineers learn from birds, for example, on their aerodynamics?
I would
yes,
say
sir.
yes.
Yes, sir. I'm not an aeronautic engineer, but I'm a software engineer. Yeah, so the concept of learning from animals and nature is actually very, very apparent in our fields.
Awesome.
Designing the
Awesome.
helicopter with the hummingbird concept, the wings, how they kind of, stay in that one position. Yes, 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 sir.
Exactly. They call that biomimicry. You mimic the biology, and MIT is big at that. There's an Israeli scientist who is so big at that, and there's no space to go there in details. But the concept, you learn from animals and behavior and mechanics and solving problems and physics. You learn from biology down those lines. So you better learn from your college for your community leadership. All right, does that make sense? And you better learn from your family life and family life excellence and put it back into your career and into your leadership. And etc. It's an intertwining transdisciplinary learning. That's what I meant here. Your MSA experiences now with other students with other faiths, with your kind of like fellow Muslim students, with your professors, etc. Those events that you're trying to make, the goals you're trying to achieve, you take from them, you learn from them into your career, and vice versa, from your career, from your kind of like discipline in learning and education into field of learning, and you take both to family and life and vice versa. You become rich in many aspects, and you do this lifelong, you'll take you places. Modes and codes, Islam has plenty of them. It's crazy good. So the perspective, Islam wants you to see things as they are. There's a dua of the Prophet ﷺ, and I think I don't. You correct me how authentic it is, but the meaning is authentic. أرنا الأمور كما هي, or أرنا الحق حقا وارزقنا اتباعه. Show us things, show us what's right as right, show us what's wrong as wrong. All right. So seeing through is important. There's so many hadiths, stories where things seem in a certain way, but truly they're way different. For a quick example is the Prophet is telling of the possibility of a man who looks so humiliated, he's dusty, no one listens to him. When he knocks on the doors, they push him away. And the Prophet says, if that man asks anything of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, he will get it. That person is so connected. So, like, don't read a book by the look, if you will. So Islam wants you to see through, wants you to be so critical of a thinker. And perspective is everything because it flips things upside down. Here's a quick example from history. All right. It's an easy quiz. Who's this example is about? Which prophet?
Musa alayhi salam.
Musa
Musa alayhi salam. And what am I alluding here about seeing things different? And it's there in Arabic. His people told him, we're doomed. It's done. It's said for. It's over. He said, no. I see things different. I know different of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. I know different of the odds and how life works. Now, when you see things different, the way Allah wants you to see them, things happen different to you. Those miracles are not miracles anymore. All right. So the perspective matters when you go through your leadership evolution as an MSA activist at this age, and you take it for the rest of the life. Perspective matters a lot, and seeing things through matters a lot. Why do you think, again, we go back, Jeff Bezos, and he's a retail person, and Elon Musk, a technology person, they are so after having a footage and shaping the minds and hearts and souls of everyone. Because it matters, it shapes history. Why? That's why Jeff Bezos is after Washington Post and Elon Musk is after this previous Twitters. It's because it shapes everything. So Islam wants you to see things, and wants you to have your say in things. Because it's going to shape everything for everybody around us, right? And again, you're at the tender stage of life where you experimenting and experiencing with all of that to make that huge difference. So one mode in Islam is to see things as they need to be seen. You flip it, you don't take it for its face value. You flip it, you go through it, you read it, you upside down it, you verify it, and you know it's right. And because then you build behaviors and you build decisions and you build patterns based on those facts. So that's one thing. Now, what is 73, 74? It's a quiz now. Ahmed, help me out, Ahmed.
I'll give you guys a hint. Think of the Quran and think of ayat, and I'll leave it there. I already know the answer. Let's see if we can get Renee and Nubani. Assalamu alaikum, Georgia Tech. Sister Renee, Sister Zahra. Let's get some new people involved, inshallah. A lot of micro. You can use the chat as well if you'd like. Any volunteers? Let's see here. Who's GT?
Well, I'll tell you, if anyone has a quick access to Quran, look up chapter 73, 74, just the names, the titles. And why are we bringing it here in the modes and codes, that in the Islamic modes and codes and MSA and leadership? Why are we talking about that here? So someone quickly look up the names of the chapters.
You mean the Al-Muzammil and Al-Mudaththir?
Correct. So code 73, 74 Islam is interesting. The Prophet ﷺ, at a moment of, let me say it with caution here, uncertainty and maybe confusion, ﷺ just had a wahi. Jibril comes to him, someone from heaven is talking to him, and he knows it's real. All right. He's like, oh, what is this about? Just cover me, cover me. He goes to Khadija and he's shaking. And at that moment, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala reveals this bundle, 7374. Well, there's no time for confusion. It says, implied, paraphrasing. I want you to do two things, alayhi salatu wassalam. I want you to evolve personally, develop spiritually and mentally. Muzammil, قُمِ اللَّيْلَ إِلَّا قَلِيلًا, pray. When everybody's asleep, get up and build the core, build the foundation. Parallel to that, that's 73. Parallel to that is exactly the same time, 74. Oh, you who cover yourself, مُدَّثِّر, قُمْ فَأَنذِرْ. Get up and do business. You have a mission. There is things needed on the ground. They go parallel. The self-evolution, development, spiritually, mentally, philosophically, the developing the roots goes hand in hand while you're on the run, while you're planning and making those events. You don't wait till you become a scholar of Islam with a 7 turns turbine to go out there and do things and make a difference. You do them in an intertwined way. And hence, again, going back to the transdisciplinary learning. You don't wait till you become a full scholar in engineering to start experimenting. You just start learning by experimenting and you keep going. So this is a bundle. This is a code, 7374. You learn on the go, you evolve in the go, and you have to be balanced and parallel. You evolve spiritually, you have to be connected with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, those adhkar, those tasbih, that qiyam, that salah, that siyam, that zakah. And you do it while you're in the action, you're in those protests, you're planning to how to make the biggest impact, what are the viral interventions. In my circle of influence here in this college or in this town, where is it that I can do things that can make the biggest impact? All right. So this evolves with that, and that's an Islamic code that's worthy mentioning. Any questions or comments on that before we proceed? Okay. La ilaha illallah. All right. Guys, you're geniuses. Come on, challenge me. Make this more entertaining for yourselves and everybody. Ask me questions. I'll tell you that. Ask me questions or converse. All right. So who has heard the code 7374 before? Anyone? Ahmed?
Yes, I have, but I don't want to steal your thunder, inshallah ta'ala. We got Renee's
Did
listening.
you end up making, have you seen the shirts with it yet?
No, I have not. I can't wait to, though.
We have to make shirts. We were trying to make shirts with 7374 t-shirts
Inshallah.
because it's such a nice concept. There's so much misconcept out there that you really have to know and have to grasp it all before you try experimenting and doing. Islam look at things a little different. Yes, you have to try to live up to it the best you can, but you do not wait till that happens. It's on the go experimentation. Alrighty. Tawakkul, the beautiful thing where you do your best, knowing all you do is almost meaningless, except it's an act of worship to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, which has all the power to make things happen. That nothing happens with his permission, nothing will happen with his permission, and you to get the result, you worship him by doing your best down that line of what you're trying to achieve. You need that in your MSAs and your planning, and when you make that biggest impact you're trying to make, hitting the biggest nail you come across to make the biggest impact, you need this tawakkul. You just give it all your best. You just give it 200%. You try your best, and that's how things change. That's how Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala make things happen. Now, leadership and competencies. I love this chart because all of us, we live in a life where literally everybody trying to impact everybody else, or at least those who trying to impact everybody else. And we better do the same because we have a great message. We have some truths, and I say it with great confidence and full mouth. The world needs us Muslims. There is so much imbalance in this life, and Islam is amazingly essential to counterbalance things in the right way. And I'm talking at the micro level. I'm talking about businesses. I'm talking about policy making. I'm talking about family life out there. There is so much needed in our surrounding, and we're so needed to come out with our values. So and everybody's trying to do the same, by the way. Everybody's trying to impact your brain and impact how you think and how you see things and etc. So we better have our say. And to do that, there are some competencies. I like this slide because leadership is taking people somewhere. Like this big father or paternal figure, mother figure, and taking those little children behind them somewhere. And there should be vision and a discipline and dedication, clarity, patience. And all that is Islamic. This is taken from leadership development in organizations by a scholar. Susan D. Hanas, the references are at the bottom. And it's interestingly very Islamic, meaning like, again, if you go into competency development, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala tested Ibrahim with certain competencies before he appointed him as an sort of like universal leader. with ابتلى إبراهيم ربه بكلمات فأتمهن قال إني جاعلك للناس إماما. These are the competencies reported that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala tested Ibrahim with before he fulfilled, and hence he gained that kind of leadership, international, universal role modeling that he's at. This bundle from Surah At-Tawbah, you can read it at your leisure, and this bundle of Surah Al-Ahzab, Mufassirin said, when Ibrahim got in all of that, he got in somewhere. And the same for us. Now you evolving as a person, taking it to your community, taking it to the global citizenship. SubhanAllah, this lines up with our Islamic value of fame, the global leadership, global citizenship. You start with your small circle and then take it to the bigger and then take it to the bigger as you evolve yourself. And then why? So you are for everybody as a warner. You're a mission deliverer, a message deliverer to everyone. So this global citizenship is an Islamic concept. And you're at the very beginnings now in your evolution and the MSAs and such. This is the era where, again, it's a big bang moment with concepts and actions and planning and impact. So it's your moment, man and ladies. Go for it and make something, inshallah ta'ala, with your presence. Now, as you do that, just so you know, your life path matters, where you're heading matters. You are planning not only for today, for this action, for this protest, you're planning for a life path. You're planning for an impact that's lifelong. The Prophet ﷺ encouraged us, Islam encouraged us to kind of care for the worth of everything we do collectively, the worth of our presence, and make sure that doesn't go in vain, because it can. You can start in this yellow zone with your life path and stay in the yellow zone all your lifetime, and this can be a mediocre life. Or you can start from humble beginnings and evolve, and that's awesome. Or you can have a failing path, God forbid. So caring for the long term, for the long haul, what you do today, make sure it's lifelong and well-based and propagating, because it's going to matter for everything around us. Some concepts out there to build on those cores is the concept of resilience. There is so much about risk charts and covering those bases and contingencies and diversity. And Islam is a very nice add-on to all the basics. You have to have your risk chart. You have to have your contingencies. You have to have this risk analysis, etc. But in Islam, what we add on is that your best resilience element, in addition to everything else, that tawakkul, the best resilience element is that you are standing and taking risk for a great purpose. If you do that, Allah is with you. And that's the best asset. That's the best contingency. Like the Prophet ﷺ did everything on earth he could with planning while he's migrating from Mecca to Medina, but everything failed. And it came to a breaking moment in Ghar Thawr, that cave in south of Mecca. All his contingencies that were well done, well put together, all his contingencies failed. What bailed him at that moment was his purpose. ما قولك باثنين الله ثالثهما يا أبو بكر. What are you thinking of two? Allah is their third. So when you're on the side of Allah, things happen, but you have to have your basics. You have to have your risk chart, etc., etc. So that's some into resilience. Swarming, you have to work with others because one ant has a minute intelligence, but the colony of ants is smarter than the Google search engine. And this is a reference information. Let me say it one more time. A one ant is a minute intelligent entity, if you will. Very minute. The intelligence is not so great. Basic stuff. But the colony of ants together with interchanges and interactions, they're smarter than the Google search engine. And Google search engine is very fast and very smart. So we have to learn from this and do it work together. Work with those who share goals with you. And here's the basics of swarming. And it's an interesting concept in organizations in the industry today with problem solving, etc., etc. Awareness, autonomy, solidarity, expandability, resiliency. If every ant has this, every MSA members have that, every MSA and every college have that, and they network, and they work with alike-minded, alike-purposed organizations, and etc. The outcome, the product is much more than, it becomes, what do you call it, gosh, exponential and not additive, all right? 1 and 1 is 11 and not 2, if you will. So swarming, system thinking. I'm not sure if we have engineers with us today or engineer students, but everything you do goes somewhere and makes a huge impact. You have to understand your surrounding, and you have to understand that what you are doing today is making a huge difference. I was in the student, we call them unions, in my medical school in 1993. I went to medical school in 1990. The spark went there. I kind of studied Islam, and I decided that it's worth taking and all the risks to kind of work with it because it's a great product. And it went somewhere on the long haul. Now, how does this fit into the system thinking? You have to literally, what you're making today, what you're doing today is making a huge impact. I've had that journey from 93 till today, and I've seen how, with humbleness, how the world works. It never crossed my mind. I'm Palestinian. My parents were born in Palestine. I was like always on the run, migrating from one country to another. This is like natural for many Palestinians. Unfortunately, today it's natural for many Muslims. But one thing that was never to cross my mind is to see how the little efforts that Muslims in the United States all through the decades have done could come to this point where Zionism propaganda, the well-funded, well-supported, well-established propaganda is on the verge of collapse. I never imagined this moment, all right? I knew it was going to come. I knew Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is capable and things happen for a purpose, and he will eventually, what's right will prevail. But I never thought I'm going to see it in my lifetime like I did. And we do, witnessing that there is a shift in the narrative, there is a shift in the perspective, and the little things, those halaqat in the masajid and those minor interactions we have with the people out there and those protests in New York streets and all of that stuff, they will hit somewhere eventually. A momentum and a tipping point will hit and make a huge difference, and we are witnessing that. So what you are doing today, those whatever kind of like what sounds like minor iftar here and a halqa there and a convention there and a public speaker you're inviting, and those interactions and interfaith and reach out and inviting to Islam da'wah table, those things make a huge difference. Give it your best, and it's going to get hit somewhere. Inshallah ta'ala will make all the difference because the world is not in a great shape. And alhamdulillah, the world needs Islam, and we have something great product to offer the world. I came to, inshallah ta'ala, these are some resources and some action items that you can go through in your leisure. And it's open now for further discussion and questions, answers, and comments. We're on time, Brother Ahmed?
We are. Jazakumullah khairan, Dr. Mamoun. I'll leave the floor open. Will we get, yes, we, inshallah ta'ala, we will send an email at the end of the session with the recordings and the documentation, inshallah ta'ala, once Dr. Mamoun sends it over, inshallah. Jazakumullah khairan. But we'll open the floor right now to all the attendees. Assalamu alaikum to Ibrahim, Islam, Zahra, Talib, Sister Amira, Sister Sana. Go ahead. If anyone wants to ask any questions, please unmute your mic and ask away. Go ahead, Tariq.
Yes, sir. Bismillah. I was wondering, has there been any research done to kind of, or I guess a better question is, how can, from our Muslim perspective, how can we do the research and incorporate this ikigai concept and make it into some sort of a Islamic framework? And the other author you mentioned, the systems building, thinking, he built a book out of it. He made it into some sort of a system that we could kind of relate to or utilize maybe. Is there some sort of a research or something like this or happening or in potential to do in this concept?
There is so much. I'm aware of some kind of like some efforts and things out there. The Islamic Institute, International Islamic Institute of Thought, IIIT, has lots of kind of like efforts down the line of Islamization of knowledge, if you will. And there's beautiful discussions and books and they have a periodic also production. So that's one thing, but it's also open once you kind of, I myself trying to put this inshallah ta'ala in a book that's inshallah going through its final stages. But I've never, honestly, this purpose structuring, I've never seen it well polished, well put together, all right, in any production Islamically, even though it's all over the place. And when I saw that the other nations have it as a discipline, I said, okay, we already have it here. What's out there? And instead of waiting, I just started my own effort down the same lines. So it's good to learn what's out there and what the scholars said and all that stuff. But there's sort of a lost sense of kind of like this living understanding of Islam and its resources. And the best way to revive it is just be out there yourself for it. So instead of waiting to see someone writing about purpose structuring, I started some effort down the line and came up with some understanding out there. And you do the same. Learn what's out there, but at the same time, now system thinking, and there is so much really in leadership Islamically. There is so much in management, but at the same time, there's a big, wide, open field for you to learn and produce and at the same time publish yourself out there. I hope this is helpful.
I have a question.
Please.
So Alhamdulillah, I think the what you mentioned resonates with a lot of us, right? Especially the idea that doing one thing now kind of sets the tone for the future, especially for us, as young adults, young professionals, people who are kind of early on in their life. Let's say, for example, we're working with a team of other folks who maybe don't understand the idea of interconnectedness, right? The idea that what we're doing right now really shapes and molds and sets the tone for the future, MSAs or Muslims on campus. Do you have any suggestions for how do we talk to our peers or other team members to get them to understand this bigger idea?
It's it's a da'wah, okay, for yourself and for others. It's baby steps and I don't know, some of you is in marketing, but the basic concept in marketing is that keeping your product and your selling point out there and keep repeating them till the fish hook catches, all right? And just keep saying them, and you do that for yourself. That's what Afkar and Salah and all of that is about, in some sense, keeping yourself on the track And that's what you do with your peers and everyone around you. Now you have to formalize this. There's a nice also talk that we give about culture creation, right? How to make an umbrella of impact. And big part of it is that you have to have events and you have to have habitual kind of like recurring things like weekly halaqa or monthly iftar for the MSA members and the new students, whatever. Those events, you take advantage of them to reach out and kind of like consistency, periodicity. You learn that from Islam also. There's keeping repeating things again and again, daily, weekly. There's Salah Jum'ah. Once in a lifetime, there's Hajj. Once a year, there's Ramadan. So you have those periodic things where they become your anchors, where you deliver where you kind of find a new potential fellowship, and you invite them to the idea, the concept, developing and simplifying your mission and what you're trying to do and creating a fellowship for it is important also. So invitation, da'wah to self and others, and use events in a repetitive way, and have very clear, simple selling points. Here's what we're trying to do in MSA. Which area would you like to do? There's a section where people have, for example, to invite or explain the Islam concepts. There is that like reaching out and trying to kind of like explain or protest for the injustice in Palestine, etc. Which area would you like to cover? Here's how we do it. That's how we network. That's how we swarm. So you have those iftars, you have those lunches, dinners, chai events once a month, if you will. People come in and you present what's out there. There should be a head spear. That's what leadership is about. And you invite others for fellowship. I hope this is helpful. Now, you have to be a little kind of like, it's da'wah, you have to be accepting. You don't accept the wrong, but at the same time, you have to accept that you're dealing with a society. You have a mu'min and you have a kafir, but he may share some goodness with you. And the Muslims, some of them are like more committed and some of them are not. You have to like get those who are not so committed to get closer. It's kind of creating a gradient, and you keep inviting to the tip of the pyramid. Wallahu alam. I hope this is helpful. What do you think the answer is, Sister Amira?
I think what you mentioned, the repeated actions, I think is a big one. I think sometimes we can get discouraged when maybe we are excited or passionate about something, or maybe we see the bigger picture, but other folks don't understand it just yet. And so I think putting a purpose to the actions that we're doing, right, and doing it repeatedly, I think yields a lot of results. Sometimes people can get discouraged, if you have an event that maybe you planned really hard for, and in your mind you thought it was going to work out really well, but then only 2 or 3 people show up, right? But I think if you're able to show as a leader the consistency behind it, right? Maybe one week it didn't work out, but the next week you do it again, and then the week after that you do it again. Similar, just like what you said about it being a hook, it kind of catches on to people, and so people start to see the vision and the idea that you're moving towards, and inviting them into that, I think, is a good way to go about doing it.
That's awesome. Yeah, persistence, little technicalities, little food every time, building momentum and taking it to the next step and spiraling with it. That goes a long way, inshallah ta'ala. Brother Ahmed, I emailed the presentation to you. I'm having difficult time seeing it on the chat. So if you could, when you get the chance, just attach it to the chat, I would appreciate it. For some reason, it's giving me a hard time.
Yeah, I'll go ahead and attach it actually at the end of the day. We'll send it out to everyone, inshallah ta'ala, all attendees, so they have a copy of it. With that, I want to thank you, Dr. Mamoun. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala bless and protect you. If you guys are in Alabama, be sure to stop by and check out Dr. Mamoun and all the great things that he's doing in the community. Buy yourself a 73-74 shirt, inshallah ta'ala, while you're there, inshallah. With that, we'll go ahead and continue on in terms of our program with the community of practice.